Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. This is episode 123, Punches Thrown in Washington. And we're going to start off the show today with a little announcement. So, Mike is entering into a very busy time of year and will not be on the show for maybe the month of December. Maybe at some point in December. He's not going to be on the show for probably about a month. Job related stuff mostly there. So I will be doing the show solo for the foreseeable future, and it's possible that in order to bring the kind of continuity that we want to with the stream, that I will be the primary host trying to do Thursdays at noon most of the time, and that when Mike is available as his schedule allows, that he will then join us at those times. So a little bit different. Hopefully, if we can keep the stream going long enough, hopefully we can get back to like a first schedule life and be able to plan this stuff a little bit more solidly within a set kind of parameters. But until then, you're stuck with me, unfortunately. So, Mike always creates banners. Let me create a new banner. Let's see. Detroit 44, Washington 22. Now where'd it go? There it is. So I hit this here, scroll across the bottom. Why does it not scroll? Don't know why it's not scrolling. Anyways, Detroit and Washington, the Lions beat the Commanders by 22 points. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of game that I like to watch. One where the outcome is simply not in doubt at almost any point of the game. The Lions jumped on them right from the beginning. They finally won a toss and deferred, which I'm a huge fan of. And let me just explain why I'm a fan of that. I am a fan of deferring to the second half because I want the additional possession in the second half. If you look at the way like possessions are split up in the first half, for whatever reason, it always seems like they're very much equal. So if you defer, most of the time you end up with like the ball under 2 minutes with the opportunity for some kind of scoring opportunity, field goal, depending on the way the play goes down, timeout situation. You might have an opportunity for a touchdown. If you receive the ball, you would think that you'd be one possession up, and some percentage of the time that is how it goes, but not always. And then in the second half, if you receive the ball, you would think that it would be the exact same thing. For whatever reason, it doesn't work out that way. And most of the time, the teams that defer to the second half are able to effectively take the game and make it into a 30-minute affair where, the best example that I have of something like this is like if it's 7-7 in the second quarter and your team has the ball and you go down and say kick a field goal and you go into halftime 10-7 your team, you get the ball to start the second half. If you score a touchdown, now you're on the short side of the game and you're up 2 scores effectively, plus more than 8 points, right? So that's the kind of thing that I think the Lions should be trying to do. So like the argument against my opinion has been, well, you want to get the ball first so that you can establish a lead and then play for the lead the entire game. Okay, that makes some sense. But if you play that first half dead even, then effectively what you've done is you said, we're going to go to the second half, and now our game plan goes into effect. And now we only need to play from the lead for 30 minutes as opposed to 60, which in my mind is much easier. So pretty excited about that. I'm just going to read off some of the box scores here. Going to go through it. First downs. The Lions have 30 to the Washington's 14. It also needs to be said that the Commanders did not have Jaden Daniels in this game, and they have plenty of injuries. In fact, I saw one Washington Twitter account that said, I don't know how you're supposed to win anything with all these injuries on defense. Or he said something like, I've never seen a team have this many injuries on defense before. And I was like, yeah, you have. You saw one with more injuries on defense last year in Detroit. It's just happening to you now, as opposed to somebody else that you don't care about or follow, that kind of thing. The Lions were 50%, 5 out of 10 on third down. Washington was 2 out of 10. Both teams were perfect on all of their fourth down attempts. Total plays 68 to 51 in Detroit. Total yards 546 to 288. Total drives, they each had 9. That's the difference, is that Detroit was just so much more efficient with their drives than Washington was, So penalties, this is kind of strange. The Lions had 3 penalties accepted for a total of 1 yard, and the Commanders had 8 penalties for 61s. There were no turnovers in this game, and I don't believe that Detroit punted. So a very efficient game for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs had an unbelievable day. Let's see what he had. He had 15 carries for 142 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. His long run was a 43-yard touchdown. Absolutely excellent performance from him. He had 3 catches on 4 targets for 30 yards and a touchdown. Just really, really excellent play from Jahmyr Gibbs. My guy, David Montgomery, they each had the same amount of carries. They had 15 carries apiece. Gibbs had 142 yards. Montgomery had half that at 71 yards. Just really good, almost 200 yards on the ground in the running game. Overall, they had over 200 yards running, but almost 200 yards from their backs. Kyle Allen has -1 rushing yards because he had a kneel down, which is just ridiculous. Defense, I thought, played pretty well. Very happy to see Terrion Arnold play the way that he has been playing the last 2 games. Really think that he's coming back from his injury strong. I wonder how much that injury affected him during the first part of the season. And just a solid all-around effort. I mean, this looks like the Lions of old. We're going to get into the Dan Campbell play calling change here in a second. I just want to take a look at some PFF grades real quickly. Okay, so to kick things off, Jahmyr Gibbs, 93.7 PFF grade. Clearly an absolute banger of a game for Jahmyr Gibbs. He was great in the passing game. He pass protected much better than he had in the previous game. He was excellent as a runner. This is how he should be used. If you use him like this, he's clearly the number 1 back on the team, right? I don't know how else to say it. Jared Goff finally has a PFF grade of 90. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Most of the time, Jared Goff is not asked to do above average things, right? He is asked to make clear reads in the middle of the field and make relatively safe yet highly effective throws, right? So one of Jared Goff's points in his favor, as it were, as a quarterback, is that he does not turn the ball over much, right? Part of that is what he is asked to do. Like Russell Wilson likes to push the ball down the field between the boundaries and the hashes. And that makes it a lot more difficult to create. It's a big time play, but it's also much more difficult to do. And so PFF grades, if you're doing something above and beyond, you get a higher grade, right? If you're doing something spectacular or very difficult and succeeding at it, you get a better grade, right? So Jared Goff will have games where he's 18 for 18 for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it's like he has a passer rating of 158 or something like that. And his PFF grade is like a 70. And people are like, what are you talking about? He was nearly perfect. How can a PFF grade be less than almost pristine? And the reason is he's just not asked to do much that's difficult. And that's fine. I'm not saying that that's a problem for Jared Goff. He's just good. And when he's at his best, it's because he's doing what's asked of him, and he can be exceptional at that. Penei Sewell came into the game a little bit beat up. He might have a shoulder or some kind of pec strain. We're not exactly certain at this point. Once again, just an absolute behemoth. I mean, I don't know that there's another word that better suits what Penei Sewell is than behemoth. He E3 grade, 90 run blocking grade. He's just excellent as a right tackle. He's probably a Hall of Fame right tackle at this point. Khalif Raymond had 38 snaps. This is the most snaps Khalif Raymond has ever played on offense. He played really well. And Dan Campbell, I think in his presser said that he was really proud of Khalif and that he wanted Khalif to be utilized more in this type of role. Jameson Williams, pretty much exactly like Khalif Raymond, played a couple more snaps, looked excellent, loved seeing how he was used in this game. In fact, I think that he had 6 catches on 7 targets for 119 yards with a touchdown, a long of 41. So, yeah, if this is not a blueprint for how to utilize Jameson Williams, I don't know what it is. And he wasn't like targeted on like deep 9 routes or like posts or anything like that. He was targeted like deep comebacks, or crossers where he can utilize his speed. Like, I don't understand why we can't seem to get him more involved like this on a regular basis. Graham Glasgow, surprisingly, with a 78, mostly from in the run blocking game. Good job, Graham. Not a lot of love for Graham Glasgow from Lions fans, but he had a great game here today. Tate Ratledge, yet another good game. Strong run blocking grade right next to Penei Sewell. Coyote Awashika stepped in for Christian Mahogany. Excellent game. Same thing. Excellent run blocking. Not as good pass blocking. Sam Laporta, consistently solid across the board. Love seeing him get involved. And in fact, he even got not benched, but like they sat their starters down near the end of the game when the decision was effectively over. And Ross Dwelley came in, not necessarily Brock Wright, but Ross Dwelley came in and got 11 snaps. Played pretty well with the backups on a series. Dan Skipper had to come in at one point when some of the other tackles went down and near the end of the game. Good pass blocking grade, not so much a run blocking game. Good to see him doing well. And then this was a little bit more confusing for me. St. Brown, not a great game. Maybe that's why he got a bit irritated later in the game. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Taylor Decker seems to continually like he's really effective in pass blocking, but he's not run blocking very well. And I just wonder if there's something obviously still lingering with his shoulder. Isaac Tesla, only 20 snaps. I'd love to see him get some more snaps. The Lions played so much 11 personnel last year, and it was so good with Tim Patrick out there. And they clearly drafted Isaac Tesla because they wanted that kind of presence. And I wonder if they end up going back to something more like that next season when he's got a little bit more experience under his belt. Michael Neese, the name you might recognize from previous seasons, and the Lions practice squad got into the game. Tristan Colon, 19 snaps, a 1.4 pass blocking grade. Not exactly great. We got beat pretty handily on one. And then we've got Craig Reynolds, Sione Vaki, and then surprisingly David Montgomery and Brock Wright down here at the bottom. I still think that David Montgomery would be I don't know if you get this kind of performance from Jahmyr Gibbs, which to be fair is I think probably his career best or one of them. I don't know how you can get David Montgomery more snaps, but one of the things about the Lions this week was that their down and distance felt so much more like the Ben Johnson era than it had under John Morton. Like they were just consistently getting into good down and distance, throughout the whole game, and I have largely attributed that to the play of David Montgomery helping get them in those situations. Maybe that's not the case, we'll have to just kind of wait and see, but I still think that he's a fantastic player and he's under contract for the next little bit. So on the defense, Roy Lopez, DJ Reader's backup, came in, played well. Terrion Arnold, here we go. He only played 24 snaps. I didn't remember seeing anything about him getting hurt or what have you. Anyways, Terrion Arnold played great. I was very happy with the way that he played, and I think that the further and further we get away from his injury, the more I think that he's going to improve. And I think that this time next year in his he's not a rookie anymore. This is kind of his veteran season, right? I think that you're going to look at Terrion Arnold and you're going to say, ooh, he's come a long way. This guy's going to be an absolute pillar for the team. Alex Anzalone, consistently great kind of play from him. Good to see him out there. Arthur Mollett made some plays. Jack Campbell, a little bit of a down game from Campbell. I think that their teams are starting to avoid him. Brian Branch doing Brian Branch things. Thomas Harper was filling in for Kirby Joseph, who's missed, I believe, now 3 games in a row. Nick Whiteside saw probably a couple of snaps near the end of the game. Rocky Sin played pretty well for him. Amik Robertson hasn't played well over the last couple games. I think that he's been on the number 1 wide receiver for opposing teams. And in this game, I think it was Deebo Samuel that he matched up against most of the time. And I think Deebo just kind of bullied him. Deebo is just like a thick wide receiver, and I just wonder if Amik has got all the fight in the world in him, but I wonder if he just got out muscled a little bit. Tyler Lacey played a bunch of snaps. Derek Barnes, kind of a below average day. And here's the one I was surprised. Aiden Hutchinson, 2 pressures, no sacks. This is the worst game that Aiden's played that I can remember. And his tackling is still subpar. And I just wonder why that is. Is he coming in too high on people? Is it, a directive from the coaching staff? You're just there to get the quarterback, just do that. Or just blindly react to everything else. Anyways, they didn't need him today, unfortunately. And he didn't, I think, affect the game much at all. Tyleik Williams, first rounder. Now I'm a little bit concerned about Tyleik Williams because Lee McNeil's come back. So Williams has now gotten, I believe, single-digit snaps in each of the last 2 games. And that I don't think will speak well for his development for the rest of the season. But what are you supposed to do? You're going to have DJ Reader in there for 1 or 2 downs, and then you're going to bring in Williams to either replace him or in certain defensive alignments that you want, and I just don't know what his future is going to look like because when healthy, Lee McNeil is going to be the 3 tech. And I know that DJ Reader's contract is up at the end of the season, but I also think, why wouldn't you try and re-sign DJ Reader? I mean, it seems like he's been an excellent addition to the team. I don't know why you wouldn't want to retain him for another year or two on like a 1 or a 2 year contract. Oh my God. Let's see. AQ Muhammad, not a great game. To be honest, the Lions pass rush didn't look very good against the Commanders. And I think they just beat them on the back end of things. But didn't need it. DJ Reader, kind of a subpar game, but good against the run. That's kind of all they asked him to do. And then for the second straight week, Ali McNeil played the majority of snaps, and he's just got to be still knocking off some rust, because this is the second week that he's been like either the bottom or near the bottom of how the defensive line is played. And then Avonte Maddox had a number of snaps as well. So a lot of contributors on defense. I like where the defense is in large part right now. Okay, so let's talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown and Daron Payne. So let me see if I can find the clip here. Punch. Okay, so I'm finding a bunch. Okay. All right, so let's bring this up. Let's mute this. Put it back at the beginning. Okay, so this is the punch that gets flagged. So St. Brown and Daron Payne are talking. Let's back this up just a second. Why would this be flagged? Hey, we're just talking here. How you doing? How are the kids? We're kicking your ass. Yada yada yada. Bam, bam. I mean, now this is an open hand. Look at his hand. That's a slap, right? So Daron Payne slaps Amon-Ra St. Brown in the face, right? So let's just count the refs, shall we? 1 ref, 2 ref, 3 refs, all looking at the center of the field. All right. Here's a cameraman right here in the middle of the end zone. And watch it again. Slap! Right in the face. Here comes the water girl. Oh my God. Okay, so he gets flagged and disqualified. He's kicked out of the game, right? Okay. Sorry, dude. Let's see if I can Here we go. All right, pause. Start it back over here. Come back. Oh, I got it. Okay. So who did the 5? Yeah. What did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap! Darkness. I love that Chappelle Show sketch. Those are some of my favorite. Those are some of my favorite sketches. What is it, guys? I'm Rick James. Darkness. So, oh God, I love those. And unfortunately, Charlie Murphy's passed away. Like that, he was so funny. Especially the one where like Rick James puts his like muddy feet all over his white like satin couch or whatever white. I can't remember what that kind of fabric is that they were using, but yeah, exactly, dude. Rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. One of the funniest guys I've ever seen in my entire life. But he was just like sitting there slamming his feet into the dude's couch, making it all dirty and shit. Oh my God. All right. So this is why Daron Payne slaps Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay. So here they are right in the middle. There's the ref directly behind them, not looking at it. Here's another ref picking something up off the ground. Here's a ref looking what appears to be directly, and here's Taylor Decker, right, which is a relatively large human being. And I mean, as is Daron Payne. Amon-Ra St. Brown, not as big. So I don't know if these two giant behemoths were hiding, the me-sized wide receiver out there. So St. Brown, I'm going to poke you a little bit. Oops, now I threw a punch. So let's look. So Daron pushes him, slap. Okay, not a big deal. And punch. And you can see his head move. You can see Daron Payne's head move with the actual punch. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, these guys are wearing football helmets. Why anybody throws a closed fist into a football helmet? Yeah, it is beyond me. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, stupid move, just for your own hand. I don't like it. Second stupidest thing, you get kicked out of the game for that. You don't know when a ref is looking. There's 5 or 6 refs on the field at any given time. Any one of them could be looking at you at any given moment, and you just throw a closed fist. Not a good look. I don't like it at all. I don't like that at all from Amon-Ra St. Brown. For what? You're up in the game. You're winning the game handily. Is there... I don't remember exactly when this happens during the game. But I think the Lions were winning. I think the slap from Payne was not long after this, and it was in the third quarter. Isn't the entire field being recorded at all times? So here, that's a great point. So if you have the camera above the field on wires, right? You have cameras in all the pylons, including the first down pylons now, right? And there's all the replay stuff. Why the fuck, when it's oh, we have dudes throwing punches, let's get this right, why can't you go and even if it's during a timeout or something, just be well, we're going to review this, because if it's an offense, it can get you kicked out of the game. I think that they should look at it. So here's my going to be unpopular opinion on this. Daron Payne was kicked out of the game for the slap that he threw at St. Brown. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown should be suspended for a game. I really do. And the reason why is you can't do this kind of shit. Brian Branch did something, this exact thing, after a game against Kansas City, and he got suspended. Just because they didn't see the punch that Branch threw first. I'm sorry, not Branch. Just because they didn't see the punch that St. Brown threw first, and they caught Payne's second punch and kicked him out of the game, doesn't mean that what St. Brown did was correct or that he should get away with it. What he did, let me just make this clear, is bullshit. That's Bush League bullshit football. If you're winning, you don't need to do shit like this, right? If you're a professional football player, you don't need to conduct yourself like this. I don't know what Daron Payne said. I don't know what was going on between them. It doesn't matter. You are being paid millions of dollars for the season, however many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to play in that game. That should be an incentive to not do this. The standing there when Ron did his part, I think the fine is in order, but the lack of penalty is in that. So this is another point. Maybe we should talk about that, Brian, here in a second. Is that here's my last point. Here's my third point on this punch thing. If you are a team that has built your culture upon the idea of grit, this is the absence of grit, in my opinion. When I hear the term grit, and you guys can tell me what you think, what I hear about is we're digging deep. We're not going to stop. We're going to work hard, even when circumstances are not going our way, to try and win the game, in the right way to do it. We're going, our fortitude, our constitution on how we conduct ourselves as football players. We are going to fight and claw during the football game to win the football game any way that we can. And this kind of action that like Brian Branch, now Amon-Ra St. Brown, leaders on this team, like Amon-Ra has been paid, like Branch is going to get paid. Like they are pillars that this team has been built upon. Other players look at them as examples. Like we are always going to have younger players. Isaac TeSlaa, is a young wide receiver who's going to be in that wide receiver coaching room with Amon-Ra St. Brown week in, week out, right? And this is the example that he is now being given. And like, even I don't want to hear another football player ever make a mistake and then like, that's not who I am. Yeah, it is. You threw a punch on the field. Like, yeah, it is. You got caught with drugs in your car. You hit your girlfriend or whatever it was. Like you kind of are the mistakes that you make in a very real sense. Like the definite, I think that getting better as a person is learning from those mistakes and not repeating them. And so like I can understand as a human being that he has a moment where it's like I lost control. Whoops-a-daisy, I'm sorry. However, Dan Campbell, this is year 5 for Dan Campbell on this team, and he has from day one, essentially since the Hard Knocks thing came out for the Lions, said like we're built on grit. This is not that. This is something else. Like I think that if there was another fan, like let's say there's like the evil version with the curled up mustache of me, who has his own podcast out there, Evil Drew, and he says, "Oh, I love this. This is grittiness. This is showing them that you won't back down or whatever." I thoroughly disagree. Like there is a line in the sand where you go from A, playing the game tough, to B, losing control, and then committing some kind of penalty or error or infraction or whatever you want to call it outside the parameters of the football game. And that is what this was, in my opinion. And so, and when you make mistakes, you pay the consequences for them. And so to me, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I haven't heard about a fine. He probably will be fined. But like he should also have to miss game time the same way that Daron Payne did. And if that means that like you have to retroactively suspend him for a game, I'm not going to complain about it. And then he can talk to me about grit because he's hurt the team. Grit is not stepping back down. It is possible that other teams have been trying to goad us into stuff, has been working, but it's also possible we have forgotten how to handle that bigger adversity. And like that's the point. Like if when you are the better team and people know that and they come for you, and it's like we got to knock the knight off of his horse, or king of the hill, or you got to beat the best to be the best, or like they get your best shot every week. All those sayings, all those cliches, the Lions are going to hurt themselves if they continue to act like this. Brian Branch missed a game. That hurt the Lions. I don't remember if it was the Vikings game that he missed. No, it was the one before that. And like if Amon-Ra gets suspended, it's going to hurt the Lions. You have to maintain your composure. You're a professional football player. Not backing down is the score on the scoreboard. The score on the scoreboard indicates the fact that you haven't backed down. To do this when you are winning is unconscionable to me. Like if anybody was every time anyone's ever talked shit to me when I played not professional sports, shocker, right? But like anytime anyone's ever talked shit to me when I was playing games and my team was winning or I was up, I would just point to the scoreboard. Scoreboard. I understand why you're talking shit. You want to be up on the scoreboard. That's where I am. You got to come and take that away from me. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to acknowledge you, Daron Payne. I don't have to give in to the shit that you're saying or the shit that you're doing. And like, I understand that that's tough because I've been there. Anybody that's played sports has been there. Someone like punches you in the ribs or like gets a little bit more physical when they don't need to. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it like this? And it gets irritating and it gets frustrating and you want to respond in kind. You can't. You just can't. And that is whatever's happening in the game, you can't do it. But it's inexcusable when you're in the lead. And it's inexcusable when you're doing it on a professional stage. And speaking of all those cameras, this is why that he's in trouble now. Is because there's 1,000 cameras, and it's not just the ones on the field, it's everybody in the stands. It's the every different streaming service that has a camera in the game. Like everything makes its way to the internet. Nothing is a secret anymore. You can't keep something like this. This took place like 48 hours after the game. Now, on the other side of this, another reason this came up was that Javon Kinlaw, a defensive lineman for the Commanders, called it out in a post-game interview. Yeah, he was right. The dude also went after a referee. I don't know that's like when you're trying to make a point about like, oh, everything they were doing to us was so bad, we were just responding, woe is us. No, that's not it. That's not it either. I was just thinking, I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, okay, here it is. All right. Let's see if does this come up? Let me see. Reshare. Yep. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Javon Kinlaw. Where are you? So I believe, okay, so here he is, 9. Okay. So this is him at the top of the screen. Pokes him in the face. Did I not add this to the stage? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So here we go again. Here we are at the top of the screen. Pokes the ref in the hat. So here we go. Left hand's coming in. Poke right there. Makes contact with the referee. I don't understand. I'm a Lions fan, right? Does anybody remember Jamie Collins bending over and touching the ref with his helmet and getting kicked out of the game? Right? Does anybody remember Quay Walker touching the ref against the Lions a couple of years ago when we first beat Green Bay? I think there was the Aaron Rodgers send-off game and he gets kicked out of the game. You can't touch officials. You just can't touch them. You can't be like, you can't pat them on the ass when they give you the touchdown sign. You can't, like, if you score, you can't grab one up in a bear hug and like twirl them around in a circle. You can't touch them. This bitch played the rest of the game, and he's the one complaining. This is the dude complaining about St. Brown. So while I am absolutely on board with St. Brown being penalized for whatever it is that he did do on camera, this bitch got away with one as well. So shut your fucking mouth as far as I'm concerned. Like, well, I mean, so like, and then, okay, so Brian's got this. Always been different rules for us against them. Every fan base thinks this, right? Every fan base in every sport believes that the game is not called fairly by the referees in any way, shape, or form. I don't understand. Here's the thing that I don't understand. If you're the ref that gets poked in the face, right? Now, this isn't the white hat ref, right? This isn't the lead ref. This is just a back judge or somebody like this. You can go to your ref, your lead guy, and been like, 99 poked me in the hat with his hand and made contact with an official, and I threw a flag. So now this is not a punch, in my opinion. If I put my hands in your face or whatever, this is not punching. Maybe by the definition of the rules, it's a punch because your hand touched a face or however to do it. That is not a punch. No schoolyard in America would call that a punch, right? So when you get punched. So, but I can't believe that the refs didn't throw this guy out of the game for, whatever it is, whatever kind of contact with the referee. You can't do it. You can't do it. So I don't like that. And like, to me, when Javon Kinlaw was interviewed after the game and he was whinging about the fact that St. Brown threw a punch at Payne. You can't be the one, like anyone else on the Commanders has a better argument for saying what Kinlaw said when they were not the ones who made contact with the referee and then didn't get kicked out of the game. Yes. So like I wouldn't. So here, ultimately, that's a good point, Hatter. I don't know why YouTube has. I don't know if it's something I'm doing or if it's something that YouTube's done, but it erases all of your names now. So I know that the kid, the like Christmas looking, I know that's Brian. Is this Tom? It is, isn't it? That's you, isn't it, Tom? So, Tom, if that's you, dude, I'm so happy to see you. But like, slap. I don't know what that means. What's docs? Let's go to the internet. What does docs mean? Intentionally expose someone private or impersonal. Oh, my bad, dude. I meant Keith. Good to see you. Keith, I didn't know that you were on the internet. I didn't know that you knew what the internet was. It's my bad. There it is. Keith, welcome to the chat, everybody. Welcome, Keith, to the chat. Anyways, Javon Kinlaw's a bitch. So, last thing to talk about with the Lions is that head coach Dan Campbell. Go back to your great point. What did you say? This seems like an organizational thing. Like the NFL should be obligated to remove that player. Yeah. So, like, I think that both Amon-Ra St. Brown and Javon Kinlaw should be suspended for the next game because of their actions that were not appropriately officiated during the game. That's fine with me. So, and then Javon Kinlaw should be again fined for his exceptionally bitch-like comments in his post-game interview. So, moving forward, thanks, Keith. Dan Campbell took over the offensive play calling in this game. And a couple of things to say about this. First of all, looked great, right? He had people involved. Jahmyr Gibbs had a great day. Jameson Williams had a great day. Goff looked good. Offense was on. What do I want to say? I can't remember any words. When you turn 43, your words leave you. On schedule. Nailed it! So they were on schedule almost all day, right? They were converting on third down. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't commit stupid penalties. So the kind of mistake-free football that the Lions want to play, right? And so even though the Washington didn't have a turnover, they committed, 5 more penalties for like 60 more yards. That helps, obviously the Lions. And so if you spot somebody 60 yards in like 5 or 10 yard chunks, over the course of the game, it's going to help you. Maybe it puts you into field goal position. Maybe it helps you pick up a first down. It converts something that would have been a punt into a first down or something like that. Like that's effectively a turnover, like I think that it's the kind of offense that I want to see the Lions run. Now it helps that Washington was missing a bunch of players. They were missing Marshawn Lattimore, who wasn't playing great, but is still a starter for them. They're set. I think both of their safeties were out for this game. They were missing another corner. Like they didn't have the horses necessarily to like stick with an offense like Detroit, even if everybody was healthy. I don't know that, they could have stuck with the Lions in this one. And probably more importantly, like they were missing their second-year quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who is great. And the Lions got fortunate that they didn't have to play against Jaden Daniels in this game, or Terry McLaurin, their number one wide receiver. So the Lions beat up on a pretty beat up Washington team who ranks near the bottom of the NFL in defense. So their offense looked great. Now, here's I think going to be the true test. I listened to a couple podcasts. The prevailing sentiment is that Dan Campbell is not going to gift back play calling to John Morton, maybe for the rest of the season. We might see John Morton start next season as the play caller again, as they have more time to build a chemistry between Dan Campbell and John Morton. But will the offense look the same when they go and play the Eagles this week? So let's take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. And this will take me just a minute to set up. But, Philadelphia just played the Packers. It was a 10-7 Philadelphia win. It doesn't. Okay, what's going on? Am I not signed in? No, I'm signed in. Oh, here we go. So it was a 10-7. You can call it a slobber knocker if you want to, but it just didn't look like a very fun or clean game from either team. So if you get the bad version of the Philadelphia Eagles, the one that only scores 10 points, I think Detroit can win. And it might just be 13-10. I don't care. But will the offense look as good when you're playing a team like the Eagles, who's not all beat up? It was glorious. I was hoping for another tie. Oh my God, can you imagine? So, okay, so Brian, let me ask you this. Do you think, so Keith, Brian and I go way back, so I'm not doxing him. In fact, I believe his old username here was Brian. Yes, I expect the Eagles to come out making a statement against us. I do. Yeah, I think that you're probably bullseyeing that one, Brian. Everyone was kind of expecting Eagles, Lions last year in the NFC Championship game, and it didn't work out that way because of the Commanders. And, we didn't get that game. Now here we are. Both teams kind of need a win in order to, solidify the, playoff standing, division standing, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's just make this a little bit bigger. Now, why is it not working? Oh my gosh. It's like doing everything except the thing that I want it to do. Okay, anyways, maybe that's as big as it can get. So the Eagles have two safeties here. What is this? Reed Blankenship? Yeah. And Andrew Makuba, he's a rookie from Texas. I think this is an area that you can target. Can you trick one of these? Is a double move going to beat one of these guys? Andrew Makuba is very much a run stuffing safety. Can you run play action and target the space that he vacated? The problem is they have excellent linebackers. Jahad Campbell, their rookie, Zach Bond, who was an All-Pro last year. Let's see. We've got Quinion Mitchell, second-year corner, Cooper DeJean, second-year corner, and this is Adoree Jackson. So, if Adoree Jackson is the starter, and I know they just traded for Jair Alexander, but he is stepping away from football for the time being to get healthy, I would be targeting whoever Adoree Jackson is guarding. Can you manufacture snaps where Adoree Jackson is lined up on St. Brown, Laporta, Jameson Williams? Can you get him in that look? These two guys, Makuba and Jackson, are who I'd be targeting. Now, the Eagles are renowned for their defensive line. So we've got Nolan Smith. He's going to be one of the edge rushers that they rotate in. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. Oh, he's down to 336. Look at you slimming up. And then the other guy they traded for, Jalen Phillips. So it's going to come down to how does the offensive line play against their defensive line? To me, like, can you move Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith off the ball in the run game? Like, do you have to dedicate Glasgow and Ratledge to Davis, leaving Awoshika one-on-one with Carter? That seems like a long day. Or do you leave Ratledge one-on-one with Davis and you double team Carter with Awoshika and Glasgow? Like, that seems like another long day. So that the interior offensive and defensive matchups and on the line are going to be paramount, because if we've seen what Goff looks like under pressure in the Vikings game. So remember the Eagles DC is Vic Fangio, right? So he is the innovator of the too high shell that has swept through the NFL over the last 5 years. So I expect a lot of too high coverages, which typically means that the middle of the field should be wide open, except that the Eagles have two of the best linebackers in the NFL this year roving around the middle of the field. So to me, what I want, where I think that I would attack, is who's Adoree Jackson covering in pass coverage? Where is Andrew Makuba lined up on defense? And then can I flex Jahmyr Gibbs out, and force them out of, their base look? Is this like a Jameson? Like, we haven't seen Jameson Williams take an end around handoff in a minute. Is this one of the games that he does that? That kind of thing. Like, to me, I think that would be very interesting to see, like, how they manufacture explosive plays in the running game against this team. But let's switch it up and let's take a look at the reverse here. So let's see. Initial injury report from, I believe, Wednesday. Let's see. Do we have an injury report for this? Okay, so here we go. Lions players who did not practice yesterday: Sione Vaki, Sam Laporta with an ankle, Brock Wright, Penei Sewell with a new injury, ankle. Hutch has an elbow injury, and Terry Arnold got a concussion, and Kirby Joseph didn't practice with his knee. Okay, so what else? Limited practice: Jacob Sailors, he's our kick returner. Taylor Decker with a shoulder. Graham Glasgow has a back injury. Josh Paschal is still practicing. Marcus Davenport is still practicing. DJ Reed is still on IR, but his window is now open as well. Rodrigo was a full practice, so he's got 5 days left in the window. He might be active for the game. No longer on the injury report: Craig Reynolds, Dan Skipper, Grant Stewart, Ty Summers, Daniel Thomas. So basically no one of note. Who on the Eagles is injured? Limited practice for Landon Dickerson, their guard; Cam Jurgens, their center; Tyler Steen, their guard. Basically, their entire offensive line was limited in practice. But limited in practice typically means you're going. And then full practice. Okay, what is this? Not important. Nolan Smith with a tricep injury is practicing. So basically the Eagles are virtually 100% healthy. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Eagles offensive line looks like. Oh, I'll take the under on the trick plays, dude. Easy on the under. The rolled gold pretzel commercials. You with the pretzels. Oh, yes. The golden age of commercials might be over, but that was one of them. All right, so let's take a look here at the lineups. Hutch is supposed to go. DJ Reader's good against the run. Ali McNeil's not played well. So I guess number one, can Ali McNeil play better than what he has shown in the last 2 games? Lacey has played well. I would still prefer AQ Muhammad here. What does Terrion Arnold look like coming out of the concussion protocol? Is Samik Robertson going to get torched for the third game in a row? Will Kirby Joseph be back? You know, at this point, like, he's not on NFI, but maybe he should have been, you know. Brian Branch, would love a big game from you. And then Jack Campbell, can you make a splash play? So then A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, behind this offensive line, a mobile quarterback and Jalen Hurts, and of course Saquon Barkley. Like, I think the Lions' goal here should be to force the Eagles to beat them through the air. So the way to do that would be to get a 2-score lead at some point, and like then be able to exploit a one-dimensional Philadelphia Eagles offense. Whether or not that's going to happen, I think is going to be pretty tough. These two teams seem like they're built in a very similar method. And one second, my mom was texting me. So, and they seem like the healthier of the two teams right now. It is in Philadelphia. That's going to be a bonus. And like, will Amon-Ra be suspended? You know, like, will the league take action against that? I don't know. So on offense, I'm targeting whomever Adoree Jackson's covering. I'm trying to trick Andrew Makuba. Sorry, one second. I'm trying to trick Andrew Makuba, and then on offense, I'm trying to do whatever I can to get Philadelphia into a one-dimensional offense. You know, if their one dimension is they're running the ball, that's probably because they're up and they're winning and they're just trying to kill time. Not what I want. That kind of thing. So, going to be a tough test. The Lions have traditionally not handled mobile quarterbacks very well. They did handle Lamar Jackson earlier in the season pretty well. This is going to be strength on strength as far as I am concerned. That kind of thing. So, like, I think that I'm going to say 2016 Lions. Let's see if there's a line on this game. Let's take this out of here. Yeah, I think this says that the Eagles are a 2-point favorite in this game. So I'm not exactly perfect at reading betting lines, but that's my guess, is that the Eagles are a 2-point favorite in this game, which basically is a coin flip. I'm not too disappointed with that, to be honest. Last thing here, I want to do is I'm just going to do a quick mock draft. I just love them, and I think they're fun, and it's something that I want to do to help inform fans about like the Lions and like the names that we're going to be seeing during the draft. So I'm just going to do that just real quick. Oops. Here we go. So I have a couple of I'm starting to develop a couple of draft crushes for the Lions. I don't think we're in a position right now to take them. So I want to talk about some of these guys. Okay. So first of all, PFF has the Lions need at center, tackle, defensive line, which I can only assume means edge, and corner. I want to talk about that first. Center is a very clear need. I don't know where they address it. Your first mock 2 weeks ago was perfect. D-line, O-line, wide receiver. Well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. We're going to try and expand upon it a little bit. Now, this is a 4-round mock just so I can get a third pick in for the Lions because they have no third-round picks this year. Francis Mauigoa, I believe that's how you say it, is a big dude, 6'6", 315. Has only ever played right tackle for Miami. And from all of the like NFL draft podcasts that I listen to or whatever, it seems like his projection in the NFL is to guard. So not somebody that I would be looking at to replace Taylor Decker potentially, right? So in the same vein, here's Caden Proctor from Alabama. He has only ever played left tackle. Hey, not bad. Has gotten better each year. Not red. Here's the problem. He is 6'7", 366 pounds. That is an enormous dude. And like, while I do believe that the Lions like enormous football players, Giovanni Manu, come on down. But like, I do not believe that this guy is going to have the speed to play, the foot speed to play left tackle in the NFL. Maybe the Lions will feel differently. I don't think currently he's done enough to say, like, this is a guy that you play at left tackle in the NFL. So also, scouts that from the content that I've taken in have indicated that they feel like he's better at guard. So these guys look like tackles, but are actually guards. So that leads me to want another pass rusher across from Aiden Hutchinson. And this is the guy that I think fits what the Lions want to do and also has a little bit of pass rush to him. LT Overton from Alabama, plays for Alabama, 6'5", 278. So he is in that Marcus Davenport type of build. Manu the Slender. I like that. That's funny. I think that this guy fits the kind of Marcus Davenport build that you want. You know, and then if you had this guy and Josh Paschal in that mold across from Aiden Hutchinson with like Ahmad Hassanine, who they just re-signed to the practice squad, as like a developmental, like designated end pass rusher, that could be something. Also, I like this guy, Quincy Rhodes Jr. from Arkansas. They clearly recruited Arkansas or like scouted Arkansas because of Isaac TeSlaa. Maybe they also got a look at this guy. He plays over the tackle and outside, so he has that kind of inside-outside versatility that the Lions like. 6'6", 275, so he's in the same kind of frame that LT Overton is. And like, one of these two guys, I think, across from Aiden Hutchinson would be an edge setting potential developmental pass rusher, good against the run. Can one of these guys clean up the mess that Aiden makes, kind of a scenario? I like either one of these guys across from Aiden in the short term. So I'm going to just take Overton here. All of the centers in this class are much smaller than both Frank Ragnow and Graham Glasgow. Like, the centers now that are being drafted out of college are something like 300 to 315 pounds, you know, and they're more like outside zone centers that get pulled and like have movement skills. And that's not what the Lions have typically like gone for. They've typically gone for like beat up your face kind of centers. So I don't know that any of the centers are going to be something like the center is going to be a position that the Lions target through the draft. They might go out into free agency and sign like a day 2 or day 3 center that fits the scheme and like the height, weight, speed profile that they want. That would be what I would guess that they do. So here in the second round, wide receivers are at the top of the board, not a position that I think the Lions are concerning themselves with. They took an edge, although Zion Young, 6'5", 262, mostly plays outside the tackle. Like, this guy is a pass rush win rate of 17.2, still a good run defender. Like, this is a guy that I think that they could look at, like, in round 2. Maybe he edges up at the end of day 1. Maybe you trade down, a little bit in round 1 and still can pick up a guy like this and pick up a third round pick, something like that. I wouldn't mind having this guy on the team either. Here's the guy that I think that they should take, Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, 6'7", 325. So he's comparable size to Taylor Decker. Good pass blocking left tackle who has played left tackle for 3 years at Northwestern. Now, Northwestern is not exactly a powerhouse football program. However, they do produce NFL talent periodically. And, like, is this guy the next guy? So this is what I would do. I would, if this guy's on the board in round 2, I would take this guy. I would cut Dan Skipper. I would have this guy be developmental Taylor Decker. And then I would have Giovanni Manu be developmental Dan Skipper. Like, if Giovanni Manu can develop into your third offensive tackle at his size, great. But, like, let's not shoot for the moon and say that he's a starting quality left tackle in the NFL. I think that's just too high of a bar for the inexperience that Giovanni Manu has playing football. Even if he's had 3 years of development, I still think that it's just, if he's a guy that can play 15 snaps a game between special teams, coming in in certain, like, 3 offensive lineman or 3 offensive tackle packages, or doing spot duty as a backup, fine, great. 4th round pick, you've nailed it. Having this guy on the team, get his body right in year 1, try and get the game to slow down for him, have him study under Decker, and then keep him on the team. Like, if Decker decides that he wants to play another year or 2, I don't care. Like, this guy's a 2nd round pick. He's not a world beater. Like, just keep him on, have him be a decent quality backup who's adjusting to the NFL. Like, the Lions are in a position where they can sit dudes for a couple of years. Yeah, right. I mean, like, yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment, Brian. So I'm going to take this kid. I like drafting this kid in the spot. So we have finally invested in a spot across from Aiden Hutchinson, and we're building depth and possible turnover. Oh, God. At the offensive tackle position with our 2nd round choice. Now, remember, so our 3rd round choice this year as well is Isaac TeSlaa. And let's see. Oh, Brian Parker from Duke is a guy that is a tackle but projects as a center in the NFL. If he was still on the board, I would have snapped him up. So now the question is, like, what do the Lions do? Like, where to go next? So, Brian, you're still listening to me. If the Lions go defensive line, offensive line with their first 2 picks, remember, this is round 4. Where do you think the Lions should go with their 4th round pick? Just throw out some, like, positions that you think they might want to target. Like, oh, we want a replacement for Shane Zylstra. Like, can we upgrade at tight end 3 at this pick? Oh, Khalif Raymond is an unrestricted free agent. Like, do we need another speedy wide receiver? Something like that. Like, do you have any thoughts about that? This guy here, by the way, Carter Smith, this is another guy that I don't understand why he's as low as he is. A 3-year starter. He's currently at Indiana. I don't know if he played anywhere else in his collegiate career. 67.5, 80, and now he's pushing 90. 6'5", 313. He's a redshirt junior, so he's probably coming out. Like, why is this guy like here at the 4th round? Like, I wonder if, like, and he probably won't be when it comes to the actual draft. And you go, tight end was your first thought? Okay. We need a true tight end 2. Wright would be an amazing tight end. I agree with you. So when you think of a tight end 2, what do you think about? Is this a blocking tight end? Is this a fullback that can play tight end? Is this another wide receiver that's playing tight end? Like, what is your thought about what a true tight end 2 is? Can you help me on that one? And I'll take a look at some tight ends while I'm waiting for your response. Interesting blend here. Did Royer? Oh, Royer just came off the board. So this is the guy that I immediately thought of when we were sitting here in round 4. This kid, Joe Royer from Cincinnati, 6'5", 250. So he's about Sam Laporta size. Good in contested catches. It's like, of all the things that the Lions all the things that the Lions have, like in the receiving game, I don't know that they have a contested catch wide receiver. TeSlaa seems like the closest thing that they have on the roster, and like there's nobody else on the roster that I think comes close to his skill set. Oh, they're re-signing Sam Laporta. I mean, like, well, I'm sure I'll get to that during like some off-season stuff, but like there's no way on earth that they're not just going to let Sam Laporta walk into into free agency. That's for sure. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these tight ends. So we have Justin Joly from NC State, 6'3", 263, a bit bigger. Receiving, good receiver, contested catch block rate, a pretty average run block rate, solid scores across his 3 years of playing. Like, this looks like a pretty good, had a good game against Pitt. I don't know what this Camel is. Charleston, maybe? I don't know. You know, like, doesn't drop the ball, good size. Like, maybe we just take this guy. Let's just take this guy. So, you know, and we're only going to, this is the last round we're going to do. And the PFF's going to kill me for the players I picked. But, yeah. So let's take a look at our draft here. I meant Sam on contract. He is getting the first one for sure. Oh, yeah. No problem. So our draft here was, we have like, I would imagine LT Overton is like, let's say the 24th pick in the draft, is probably going to split time with Josh Paschal on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson, right? And basically there, so the Lions, I've said this before, they want to create a wall that Aiden Hutchinson crashes into, right? They want the pass rush to come from the 3-tech, Aiden Hutchinson, and then either DJ Reader or Tyleik Williams in the middle, and then another Marcus Davenport sized body to set the edge. So if this guy can set the edge, I think they would be interested in him and his skill set at his height, weight, speed. Caleb Tiernan, we talked about, but like if he is available in the back, you know, in the middle of the second round, so to speak, I think that you take a guy like this who has more upside than Giovanni Manu. Now that Decker has had yet another nagging injury, like, how is he just sick of dealing with injuries and wants to be healthy for a while? Like, could we see an out of the blue retirement from Taylor Decker this offseason? I think they have to start considering that. Like, I don't believe that there is another tackle on the roster that can play average football at left tackle for this team. And like, I do not believe that you move Penei Sewell from right tackle to left tackle. He is excellent at run blocking. He is not excellent at pass blocking. You want Penei Sewell to move people off the ball. Like, that's not what a left tackle does. So can you get a pass blocking left tackle? Caleb Tiernan, has at least played in Big Ten football, and Big Ten football produces NFL pass rushers. And so he has seen those guys, and he has the height, weight, speed that you would want from a left tackle. He doesn't have to switch positions. He's relatively local, Chicago area, to Detroit. So I don't know that like it's going to be a culture shock. He's used to playing in the, so I know when Northwestern plays like on the lake, or at least they did. I think they played their last game there now, but like, he's used to playing in those conditions this time of year. So, I mean, like, I think that matters to some degree. I mean, it's in the pro column at least. And then Justin Joly, Shane Zylstra, I believe his contract is up at the end of this year. Can this guy be a more versatile Shane Zylstra? Or can he push Brock Wright even for Brock Wright's role, maybe in his second season, something like that? And then you've built in at least a rookie contract behind Sam Laporta at this position when you re-sign Sam Laporta to like a 4-year deal or whatever. And so just a quick thought on the 22 draft class. So remember, this was Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and then Brian Branch. I firmly believe they're going to sign all of those players. I can't imagine that they let any of those players go at this point. So what I would do if I was the Lions is I would pick up Campbell and Gibbs' 5-year contract, 5-year options, and let them play on those options. And then I would re-sign Branch and Laporta to like 4-year deals because they just don't have the 5th-year options. And then at least you break up those 4 players into like different contract lengths so that you can better and more easily push some money out to a future year, even if you have to take a hit in the short term. And then at the end of their 5th seasons, you re-sign Gibbs and Campbell to longer term deals. And like I wouldn't rule out putting tags on them. I mean, like linebacker and running back have some of the cheapest, the absolute cheapest tag numbers in the NFL. Now that's all guaranteed money, so it comes straight off the top of your cap. But like if the NFL salary cap keeps going up 10 or 15% every year, like you're absorbing that cost right off the top of the thing. So they will have some amount of money that they will roll over. Will they restructure Jared Goff to give them additional cap? I don't know. But like I think that these are the kinds of picks. So like let me just do one more thing here. I did this last week. Let's just do a quick additional draft. So we're going to try and trade up into like, okay, Arvell Reese is gone. Peter Woods is gone. TJ Parker's gone. Oh, and Keldrick Falk just went. So like, we'll just keep going here. Like, I don't know that there's a player. David Bailey would be interesting. I don't know. Okay, so like maybe one of the corners. This guy, Avion Terrell, he might be a Amik Robertson replacement, 5'11", 180. So he's right around the same amount of size. Excellent, good run defense grade. Better zone cover corner than man cover corner. Not by much, but a little bit. And lines up primarily at corner, but he's played in different spots. So forcing completions 9. Like if this is your future slot corner, I could see them going for something like that. But then these are all the same, the same players. Like Connor Liu, like he's hurt. Let's see. He's a junior, so he could go back to school. But like he's still 6'3", 300 pounds. Like that's just 30 pounds lighter than what Frank Ragnow was. Like, do the Lions want a center that's 30 pounds lighter? Like maybe his frame will allow for some additional weight or strength to be added to it. But what are we talking about? You're talking about 20 pounds of muscle? I don't know. That seems like a pretty crazy thing to want to do. But like, and there are some other pass rushers, but like I just don't. Austin Steerveld, like maybe this is a guy 6'5", 325. You replace an Ohio State tackle with an Ohio State tackle, like pass blocking grade, good, pretty good against the run. Like, do you? Let's do this. We're actually involved in a mock draft right now. Do we have a trade available? We do. We could trade down to 26, 30, or 38. Let's trade down to 38 with the Raiders. So I want 38 and 70, and I'll give you 24. And now I want a 4th round pick next year. Okay, so you don't like that, so give me the 4th. Okay, so the Raiders have traded up. We picked up pick 38, pick 70, so now we have a 3rd round pick, and we get a 4th round pick in 2027. So they take it right. That makes a lot of sense for them. There's any offensive lineman worth their salt would be a good selection for the Raiders. Let's bump this up a little bit here. For whatever reason, this thing is like really slowed down here. Did I lose internet connection? No? Anyways, this would have been nice to continue to do, but it looks like the thing is totally stalled out. Do I have to do this each time? I've never seen it do this before. Maybe they're updating it. Anyways, you trade down. Can you pick up the Ohio State tackle at 38? You pick up a 3rd round pick. Okay, like that's increasing depth. And like the thing that no one seems to really mention about these selections, like even if you're a team like Detroit, who doesn't have a lot of spots for like these rookies to like be immediately added to the team, when you put these guys on your team, like you're getting guys on 4-year deals, the cheapest they're ever going to be, right? Like, and that helps your cap. So like, do you want a guy like Rock Ya-Sin on a 1-year deal worth $1 million, or do you want like a rookie corner on your team like for well less than $1 million because he's a 2nd or 3rd round pick who's guaranteed to be on the team for 4 years? I mean, like, I don't know. I go back and forth on that. You do want some amount of veterans on the team, but like a lot of their early picks, Sewell, Hutch, those guys from those classes, those are the veterans now. So like I don't know that you need to add veterans like through free agency or whatever, unless they're exactly what you're looking for schematically. So anyways, I'm really sorry that let me see if we can just reload the whole thing here just real quick. Ugh. Oh, God damn it. All right. Oh, okay. This time Terrell's on the board. So we could take him. Let's see if we can still trade down with somebody. Okay. The Dolphins were at pick 39. That's pretty close to where we were. 39, 71 in a future 4th. And I'll give you pick 24. Oh. Okay. So we're going to 31, 79 and a 3rd round pick next year. Will you take this trade? You accepted it. Okay. So the Dolphins have moved up. They took a tackle. Same guy. That's pretty good. So what can we do now? Did that Ohio State tackle come off the board? No. This is another guy that I kind of like across from Hutch. 6'5", 272, went to Oregon. Good pass rush run rate. Not a good run stopper. So I don't know that the Lions would be that much interested in him. So let's take this tackle. What shall we do in the 3rd round? Oh, there goes Tiernan. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So let's take Zion Young. This is that other pass rusher that we looked at. He's a good against the run, and he's probably going to go higher than the second round. But in this mock, we're just trying to make like comparative picks. So now we have a third round pick. I think it's 79. Yep. Oh shoot, Jake Slaughter just went off the board. That would have been, I might have taken him. So 6'4", 303. This guy, I've heard that he's actually like 330, and I don't know why, but this is what his weight is on Florida's like team website. So that would have been interesting. So we could take quarterback here. Ooh, this is another guy that I think the Lions should look at. Danny Dennis Sutton, 6'5", 265, plays well, good against the run, decent against the pass, lines up primarily outside the tackle. Like this is another player that I think his draft position is dropping because Penn State's having a terrible season. Let's look at this guy, Whit Weeks, 6'2", 225. This is basically a safety. This is not a Detroit Lion. Jack go. Oh, here we go. 6'4", 240. Good against the run. Good in coverage. Oh my God. How have I not heard of this guy? This is new Alex Anzalone, everybody. Welcome to the third round, Jack Golday. And then we've got our fourth round pick that we can really use wherever we want. And then we'll take a look at what this draft looks like. Ow, Brian Parker gone again. Rats. There are a couple of guys in the second or third round that I think Detroit could look at moving up to get. First of all, if Drew Aller is here, even starting in the second round, and the Lions don't take him, I'm going to be furious. What made the injury settlement for Hasseltine confuse me. Why give up the time if he is worth keeping? What spot was so valuable as to spend that money? So the way that I understand it, per what Brad Holmes has said, is that they did not want to keep Hasseltine on the roster knowing the length of the time he was going to need to recover. So the injury settlement works as when the player gets cut and you give him the injury designation, you set a time frame as to what his return looks like, and then you have to add 3 weeks to it. So here it is, week 10, and they've added him back to the practice squad just before week 10, right? So let's call it week 9. So he was basically going to say, you have an injury that's going to take up basically 2 months, right, of the season. And so I'm being a little generous with that, like 2 months of in real life time for 7 games plus the bye week, right? And then you needed to add 3 weeks onto that. So just before week 10, they add him back to the roster. I would not have done it this way. I think that I would have gone one guy less, like on the practice squad, and then put Hasseltine or somebody like on an 8-game injury reserve designation, which I believe that gets me, and it maintains the 4-year contract. Like this is the same thing that they did with James Houston, is that they cut him, they nullified the rookie contract, and now they've signed him back. And I don't understand why you give up years 2, 3, and 4 under the salary cap to save 8 games of one roster spot. So it was a kit. It was about the value of the spot this year. We had him on a low money long-term deal and cut him to bring him back later. That is a lot of hidden value. Well, I mean, like, I think that you give up the value. I mean, like, what is the so there's 53 players on the roster and however many on the practice squad. Like, is he worth the 60th spot on the Detroit Lions roster to maintain the status of his rookie contract? I would say yes. Like, it just makes it harder to keep him if he is worth it. You know, he's a 6th round pick. The Lions made this move because they, according to Brad Holmes, they were certain that nobody was going to pick him up if he was on a practice squad. You know, so like we're talking about a player that nobody wanted, right? So that's why they made this move. But then I think they gave up a lot more to do this move the way that they did it than just, here you go, kid, you're on the injured reserve for 8 weeks, you know, or what have you. I don't know. I didn't like the way this was handled. Brad's got some stuff that he does that I just don't understand at all. Like, I just don't, like, I hear him talk about it and I'm like, I hear your words, Brad. And I'm trying to understand the logic behind them. And I can't get to where you are, you know? So let's take a look at this. So they're mad that I didn't draft a quarterback when I took this linebacker, and then I took a quarterback anyways. So let's look at this. So which of these two things do you think is better? Now, this mock is scored lower than the previous mock, right? We had an A, you know, according to PFF in the last one. We have a tackle that you can do the same thing with, arguably a better tackle. We have a worse, maybe worse, or different edge rusher. We have a potential replacement at some point for Alex Anzalone. So if Rodrigo, so let's say Alex Anzalone leaves in free agency, you have Rodrigo start, and this kid is the backup will linebacker, then there's at least somebody there to push Rodrigo. Maybe this kid replaces him on special teams, or this kid just takes the job, you know, and then you get Drew Aller in round 4. If that's the case, like, I would park Drew Aller's ass on the bench and teach him everything about this football offense for years. And then once Jared Goff is like, oh, I'm 33 or my contract's coming up, it's like, do we want to make a change? Like, at least you have that chip in your back pocket, at least, you know, whether it's for contract negotiations or whatever. This implies he is worth a slight pay raise if it works that way. Okay, I could see that. They have had luck on the back of the draft before, right? I don't know that they've had that much luck on the back of the draft, like 6th round guys on this. I mean, St. Brown is probably the lowest drafted player to make a huge impact on this team. Like, he was a 4th round pick. Barnes was a 4th round pick. You know, they were sequential picks. The pirate code, more like guidelines. More like guidelines, you know. You know, so I hear you. I mean, like, and you're right. Like, this PFF is not the end all be all of player evaluation. I use them because when it comes to evaluating players, you can look at statistics, which I think about as just tally marks. Guy made tackle, tally mark. Guy made tackle, tally mark. And then at the end of the day, you can look at all the tally marks and you can say, this guy has more tally marks at this thing than any other guy, so this guy's better. Well, why? Right? And that is the question that PFF is trying to answer, is the why of it. You know, and so I can look at tally marks all day and say, this guy has more or less. So, but if I'm drawing a conclusion just on tally marks, I don't think that I'm thinking about football in anything but the most basic way. So at least PFF, even if they're not doing it correctly or the perfect way, is doing something to try and answer the question as to why you are good, not just are you productive, right? So I get your point. The pirate code, more like guidelines. You know, like, what I would do if I was in NFL talent evaluation, I would be looking at like game film, like analytics like PFF or Next Gen Stats, that kind of thing, in order to give a more complete picture. Then I would look at things like productivity, coaching, personality, grit, all these other things that go into it, and then seeing if it's like, do we like having this guy in the building? What's his injury history look like? There's a lot of stuff that goes into figuring out whether or not a guy's right for your team. Like, they love Jack Campbell, right? So they brought, they used, Brian Branch was on the board when Jack Campbell was, and they took Jack Campbell there. So, turns out it was, he's having a great third season. And, he's the exact kind of player that they wanted on this team. And that is the hard part about what the Lions are trying to do, is you can try and figure out all this other stuff and like generalities or consensus, and then trying to figure out what the Lions like. It's like trying to pick up. It's like if you threw a sheet of glass on the ground and you have to put it back together like a puzzle. It's just so hard. And if somebody one day said Howie Roseman like legitimately just used Madden ratings, I don't know that the people who give Madden ratings, whatever method they use for figuring out whatever rating they're going to do, can they really be that much more? Can they really be that wrong? Every once in a while we look at a Madden rating and like, there's no way that Jameson Williams is like a 75 speed, or something like that, or like this guy's a 65 rating, and he just had a breakout season in year 3 or whatever. And it's like, okay, they got kind of these things wrong, but like by and large, they're pretty correct. The thing that I think about that Madden has done that has destroyed like the average football fan's ability to assess real football is that anything is possible in Madden. Like, I'm going to trade a first round pick for this tight end or this edge rusher. Yep. Okay. The opposing team will do it because you drop the difficulty settings or whatever, on the game. So like the idea is that you can just trade a first round pick for a edge rusher, like a good one, and like the Browns just turned down 3 first round picks from Philadelphia to trade Myles Garrett. I have no idea why. Like, even if that is the last pick in the first round for 3 years, like if you're the Browns, I think you have to do it. Like, you get all that money off your books. You're not on a timeline that Myles Garrett fits into any longer. And like, even if it's not great quality, it's great quantity. Like, what would you rather have 2 picks at pick 16 in the NFL draft, or 3 picks at 32? Like, just who I am. I want more picks almost all the time. So that's what Madden has done to the average like person my age. Is I grew up playing Madden, and I would stack my favorite team with like the best players, and be like, oh, I can't be stopped, we're so good, or whatever. And it's just that easy. Just like go stack them with all the best players. And like the NFL clearly does not work that way, because it's 32 billionaires who all are playing fantasy football with one another. So I don't know. I know that Brad Holmes has yet to do an NFL draft that I predicted. So pretty much anything that I do here, you can bet on the fact that he's not going to do it, right? So, and to kind of wrap up today, I said at the beginning of the show, there wasn't anybody watching at that time. Mike is going to be out for about the next month, mostly with work-related stuff. So it's going to be just me probably till mid-December. And then in order to bring some kind of continuity to the show, we're probably going to be doing Thursdays at noon with just me for the foreseeable future. And if Mike can join, he'll join, which is a bummer because we'd like to have Mike on the show all the time. But that's what we're going to be doing in the short term. And then hopefully I can get back to first shift at some point before too long, and we can bring some more regular continuity to the show. I might have to push the show to Friday next week to accommodate an errand that I have to run that has to take place at a certain time. But if not, we just follow your notifications as to when we go live. It's either going to be Thursday or Friday. So next week, and then we should, whatever after that, we should be back to a normal show. So thank you, Brian and Keith, for watching. Really appreciate it. And then hopefully the Lions will come out top in Philadelphia this weekend. All right. Take care, guys. See you later.